Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right, I think Dr. McGraw has a motion that he would like to make.
I do. Once it's read, I will so move it.
Mr.
Madam Chair,
Gregory.
members of the Executive Committee, with your permission, I would suggest a motion to correct and adjust the Executive Director's annual compensation increase that was awarded in June down from 9% to 5%, retroactive to July 1, 2025, and to ratify all actions taken by staff to date to make such corrections and adjustments.
So moved.
Second.
Do a voice vote on that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Gregory and Dr. McGraw for all of your help on that. Next, we will go to the 2026 key imperatives and work program priorities. The next thing that I'm going to ask Martha to discuss with you is something that she's been working on a long time, and so is the organization. And I joined a meeting with her probably 6 weeks ago now, maybe, to meet with the other partners involved in this partnership. And I think it's something that is really beneficial to our organization and the region in general. So Martha, would you like to?
Share my screen. So do I have,
Yes.
oh, thank you, sorry. Okay. Well, good morning. Thank you, Chair Stewart, for that introduction. Yes, we have been working on this, and many of you have heard presentations from our partners at the Chamber and the Community Foundation previously. But just to give a little bit of a refresh, RVA Rising is the name that we have collectively given in the region for the work that we could do together to advance economic mobility. Chamber RVA, the Community Foundation, and PlanRVA have had a long-standing partnership of working together to think about the opportunities for our organizations to align and to be able to drive strategic action for the betterment of the region. That when I started here about 10 years ago, that was baked into my position description as the co-director of the Capital Region Collaborative. And in 2018, 2019, the staffing for Capital Region Collaborative and the funding evolved such that we were working more to embed those activities of coordination alignment in our organizations instead of having kind of a centralized staff member. And so since that time, and certainly since 2020, we've continued to work behind the scenes to really think strategically about how our organizations can move together and, quite frankly, establish more of a concrete North Star, economic mobility. And so today, the item on the Executive Committee's agenda is really kind of the culmination of the last 4 or so years of work to identify ways that our 3 and now 5, including the United Way and the Richmond Memorial Health Foundation, can collectively work together to assume responsibility in the lanes that we occupy under the responsibilities that were already given in the region to coordinate our actions. So just a little bit of background, the way I think about the relationship of these things. In June, our board adopted a regional strategic vision. Those are the 5 key themes that we've identified as where we are headed, the Regional Planning District Commission's North Star for where the region's headed. You also adopted a work program that is our game plan for this fiscal year to move that regional strategic vision forward. And so the RVA Rising Declaration of Cooperation really outlines the ways that we will partner with those 4 other organizations specific to economic mobility, but very much in alignment with that regional strategic vision and the annual work program. So basically what we are saying is that if we're going to partner, we need to have expectations of one another and be able to hold one another accountable so that we can move the effort forward. The Declaration of Cooperation sets forward an intent to work together for the next decade. 10 years is a long time horizon, and we want to make sure that we've got some stickiness, if you will, so that this doesn't just rely on the relationships that we've built today, but really is, just as the Capital Region Collaborative was, baked into the expectations of the staff and the leadership of our respective organizations. And so this is a slide that actually Sherry Armstrong presented to her board a week or so ago, talking about this. And so it's really about this idea of setting expectations of one another around the work that we're going to do internally in our organizations to advance economic mobility, the connection that we'll have with data, which is the key area that PlanRVA is leading, making community engagement a core principle of our work, and connecting on a regular basis to ensure that that work is happening in alignment. We've got this idea that we've got 4 basic products that our partnership can produce or provide to the community. And so those are a toolkit, if you will, around community engagement, so that organizations that are interested in advancing community engagement, we can create kind of this RVA way that we do that. From a data and measurement support, that's really, again, where PlanRVA is leaning in, providing that regional data platform, the regional indicators, working on the demographic and socioeconomic profiles for each of the localities, and working with locality staff to really unpack and understand the drivers of economic mobility and where those levers of change can be. And then finally, working on collaboration opportunities about ensuring that, you know, as a region, we're moving forward together and creating that just general visibility and amplification so that when we talk with a unified voice about the priorities of the region. So the idea is through this cooperation, we're really leveraging the staff. At this point in time, we're not hiring someone to sit in the center as we have before in some previous efforts and models, but really it's aligning the staff to ensure that we're working together. So it's not just me talking to my colleagues and counterparts across these 4 other organizations, it's our staff are working with each other, our data team. Later this morning in the full commission meeting, you'll see an example of that with Isabel Elhike joining Dr. Saranat Akari to give an update on some of the data work we're doing. We actually have Isabel on loan to us as a loaned executive from the Community Foundation for the next year to be able to really demonstrate what this partnership looks like. And so with that, I am happy to answer questions, but the document is included in the packet for your consideration. The request is that you authorize me to execute the Declaration of Cooperation. For point of reference, the United Way, the Community Foundation, and the Chamber's executive leadership boards have all met earlier this month, and RMHF is scheduled to meet, I think, sometime between today and the end of the month next week. And so we're all tracking, hopefully, to be able to report back that we've been able to move forward with this effort.
Anyone have questions? Concerns? Comments?
I have a comment. I say this aligns exactly with what our goals are for PlanRVA to be a regional convener. And so the more we grow, the better. So I appreciate you taking on more responsibility if you're willing and able, and staff is willing. So,
We're excited.
you know, I think it's a good opportunity to keep growing.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the executive director to sign the Declaration of Cooperation.
The move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right, next on our agenda will be Martha again, presenting on our succession management plan update. So Martha, I'll let you take that away.
Thank you. Back in April, I talked through with a set of slides my thinking around some of the objectives we had set for last fiscal year around staff support and continuing to invest in the human capital of our team. And so at that meeting, the executive committee gave me some good feedback and suggestions. And I think my recollection is a go ahead to recommend updates to the succession management plan that had been previously adopted in November of 22, I think, or excuse me, April 2022. And so again, in your packet is a proposed updated succession management plan. Just to give you a couple highlights, it's not a tracked change document because I reformatted the whole thing and it would have been a little overwhelming to see the tracked changes. So I've highlighted the key changes that happened. Overall, I found the succession management plan, even though I was author of it in 2022 with our consultant, I found it hard to follow. And so I thought if it felt hard for me to follow, it probably would be hard for anybody else to follow. So I tried to make it a much cleaner and just straightforward document. And then I think from a content perspective, it's important to identify the key areas where there are content substantive changes. There, in the current succession management plan, there's a section that references the establishment of a transition committee in the event of a permanent absence of the executive director. I've removed that section. There's really no reason why you still couldn't establish a transition committee, but I think it just leaves flexibility to be able to leverage the existing committee structure that you have, if you so desire. The second removal omission is the annual review and signatory requirements. Happy to add that back in, but we haven't actually practiced that since 2022 when we adopted it. And so I think in other conversations that we've had with commission leadership and TPO leadership, having rules that we don't follow doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so just trying to, again, align practice where it makes sense with policy. The financial oversight specifics, the current document references the executive committee would have financial review responsibilities. We've had a very strong audit facilities and finance committee since about 2019, 2020. And it seemed like that might be the most, again, leveraging the existing committee structure, the most appropriate body to step in to really be able to support staff through a transition, should that be required. And then finally, part of the reason why the document that's in place right now is sort of clunky is because it was attempting to do two things. One, to be able to provide this roadmap of what do we do if there's a temporary or a long-term vacancy in the executive leadership role, but it also set out a game plan for me to establish succession planning for our leadership team and frankly, everybody on staff. And so I've essentially removed that content. It still exists and it's still something that we work with our senior leadership team. But this document that's here for the executive committee to recommend to the full commission is specific to the roadmap for the executive director succession plan. And then baking the responsibilities and the succession planning for the remainder of the staff members into our operational side of things under my responsibilities. Process wise and communication wise, there's really not a whole lot of change that happens, just setting out, how do we understand the significance of a vacancy? Is it short-term? Is it long-term? Is it permanent? And then if so, depending on which of those situations we might encounter, that's that. I do want to make clear, and we had this conversation back in 2022 as well, this is not an attempt to foreshadow anything. It's just a best practice that's important to have in place. But it's not, I just don't want to inadvertently send a signal that this is some sort of preparation for anything that's going to happen on your watch, at least not from my perspective.
I appreciate that.
So. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, or we can talk through comments. It's here for your consideration today. When you're ready, the next step would be to move it forward to the full commission to adopt. So it's not on today's agenda for the commission, and so it would be on your schedule that you're ready to move it forward.
First of all, thank you for all of your hard work and not planning our doom today. I appreciate that. Do we have any questions for Martha or just in general? About any?
It's smart, cover all the bases.
And do we feel comfortable today recommending it for approval to the full commission in November?
Sure.
If we have no concerns, I will ask for a motion. Do we need to do a motion? Or is it-
Yes.
A motion to recommend approval of the updated succession management plan at the November 13th, 2025 full commission meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. All right. Next, we're gonna go over committee assignments. And I will say, I feel a little silly talking to a group of people that I know are significantly more experienced in this than me. So if you have any insight into committees being better than the way I've set them, please don't hesitate to tell me. My feelings will not get hurt at all. So I reached out to the folks Mr. Davis and Mr. Spoonhour on our finance committees, and then Dr. Newbill as our treasurer is on those committees as well. So I was thinking that would be our finance committee. I don't believe Mr. Holland is able to serve at this time. Traditionally, he would be in that position as well. Now my question for you all, I did not ask anybody to be the chair of that committee. So looking for your recommendation of either you two or we give it to Mr. Davis since he's not here. He did, agree if we so asked him. So I'll let you two decide out of the two of you who would like to be chair.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis.
We'll see if he takes the Greater Richmond Partnership over us next time. Just kidding. So that was easy. And then for our public outreach and engagement assignments, I did reach out to every person that was currently on the committee. And I heard back from everyone except for the folks from the city of Richmond. So we don't have a representative from there, but if they obviously come and respond after the fact, I'm sure we can add them on afterwards, right? That's okay. So right now we have Mr. Bast, Mr. Davy, Reverend Hathaway, Mr. Petrosky, Ms. Schneider, and Mr. Waddell, with Mr. Davy serving as the chair. And again, that's in my perspective of this, if people decide they want to join that committee later on, they're welcome to. Because I think public outreach and engagement is a continuing and important part of what we do. Is everybody comfortable with that?
And if I can say, I think Cameron George was on the committee from the city of Richmond and he moved out of the region. So that seat got vacated, which I think might be part of the reason why.
Okay.
So we can circle back with Ms. Knight is on the planning commission from our representation, and I'm trying to think if
Catherine Fortman.
we've gotten a new citizen rep yet.
I don't think I didn't
Yeah.
see it on it.
So that's just to
Okay.
sort of, I know you'll be on top of that, and so I wanted to just give you that background.
All right, well, if we're all good with that, I will report that in the full committee. And with that, we will move on to what I think is probably the most exciting part of what we're gonna do in the next 9 months, is our future meeting topics. And as I said, we're really hoping to drive a lot of collaboration and conversation between the localities, because I know that's something that I benefited from as a newly elected supervisor in New Kent and as a new member of this commission, is just really being able to hear what other localities are doing, what's good, what's bad, how we can learn from one another, and just how we function here in this commission as the regional convener. So I'm really hoping that we don't treat this as an obligation where we come in and come out, but we actually really get the benefit of being here and talking with our colleagues and friends. So all of these topics I find equally exciting, but I would like to go over them with you to see if you all have any burning desires to talk about them. And then we will give Martha a few minutes at the end to talk about our new meeting agenda format. So on the list, and I will not take credit for any of these. These are great ideas that Martha has come up with. So thank you, Martha. We have on the list solid waste as a topic. We do have to talk about that at some point, and it'll be at our November meeting because we have a solid waste management plan amendment and update. We also have affordable housing as a potential, energy, health access and aging, mental health and substance abuse, K-12 funding, early childhood education and childcare, out of school time, and workforce. And these do all link directly back to the work that Martha was discussing with RVA Rising. So any one of these topics can be relevant to the regional work. So does anyone have strong feelings on any of these, or any ones that you don't like, you don't want to talk?
I was looking to add. Okay, you said didn't like you.
No, you can add, no, it's, and also this is an open forum. Now you tell me what you like in addition. These are not, this is not.
Homelessness.
Okay.
Especially during the cold weather, the great collaboration with Henrico and Richmond and Chesterfield. And I think we're gonna need even more of that. And certainly the other categories, the affordable housing, I mean, the things you've mentioned, education, would be high on the list as well.
So I'm gonna throw a blind ointment. Affordable housing is an important topic. It's been on our list forever. But honestly, there's only like 3 jurisdictions that are actually trying to do affordable housing, and none of the rest of them are. So if we're not getting buy-in from the majority of the jurisdictions to do it in their own jurisdiction, why are we doing it as a regional topic? I know that's probably not a fun question to ask, but I mean, really,
It's a relevant question.
it is relevant.
Noted.
So it's very interesting. I've really leaned into this because I do think it's very important, and B, I'm just curious how I believe that the state is gonna have some potential influence on how we manage it if we don't manage it at the local level. So I've gone to several different things. My observation is there's a lot of people doing this. And there doesn't seem to be like, you have, there are certain organizations that seem to take the lead, but it seems like we have so many different people trying to tackle this. Like, I would like to see potentially us figure out how do you bring this all together? You know, because you've got so many different organizations working on the same issue. It just seems inefficient.
Well, I get it, but what I'm saying is if the majority of the jurisdictions, if we don't have at least the majority of the jurisdictions that are actually bringing in affordable housing projects in their jurisdiction, then how can we say it's a regional effort? Cause I mean, I could be wrong, so if my perception is wrong, I apologize, but right now I see Henrica, Richmond and Chesterfield working on it, and I don't see any of the other jurisdictions doing that. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm just saying that it's not being worked on in each jurisdiction. But yet regionally, we're saying that, so we're actually looking at several jurisdictions to take on the whole thing, and everybody else saying that's great, and that's not great.
Well, I think
That's
it's,
not
I
good.
think it's because people are trying to put a one solution for all. And your solution is gonna be different than Goochland's, gonna be different than.
I'm not disputing that, but I don't see it going in other jurisdictions.
So I will offer you at least a New Kent perspective on that. As we
Okay.
have an affordable housing advisory commission. We have just put our teeth around what that means. So, and I think, you know, Martha participated in an event that I wasn't at, but she was thankfully a couple weeks ago with our affordable housing commission, where we are trying to figure out how to do that and what that looks like for New
Okay.
Kent. So again, we did not approve the one proposal that was brought to us from a developer. But we have identified it as an issue. We are looking at solutions. We just haven't figured out what's best yet. So
Well, that,
So we might be able to
I
learn
haven't
from what
seen
you're
it, so
doing.
it doesn't mean you're not doing
Right.
it, but from my perspective.
Right.
Which again could be jaded. I don't see it being, I mean, honestly, some jurisdictions are gonna have a hard time doing it. But yet we're making it one of our key functions here, and not every jurisdiction's buying in. And I just wanna make sure that it really is something that the majority of the jurisdictions are gonna be doing, if that's gonna be a something that we're working on as a region.
So why don't we have that conversation across the, you know, our entity, across members of PlanRVA? We know for sure there are 3 that have been working. And
At
just
least, and maybe
indicating
more.
that you can, and I don't know that the others aren't doing something. And if it's decided that that's not a priority, well, good, but let's not.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm
Yeah.
saying that I want all of our priorities to be something that at least the majority, hopefully all of us, haven't just said as a priority, but then it's like, okay, well, that's a priority, but they're gonna take care of that one, and they're gonna take care of that one, and we just get to say it was a priority for us, but we're not actually gonna address it.
I'm sure
Just
some
saying.
of us may be a little further along than others, right? I think
Right.
our chair stated that they're in conversation and they're finding out what it looks like as far as, you know,
Yeah.
the manifestation.
And I'm
So-
glad to hear that. I'm not trying to say it shouldn't be there or cause controversy. I'm
No,
just
this is
saying
very- This is
that
very relevant.
anything that we put on there,
Yeah,
at least the majority, hopefully all of the jurisdictions need to be committed to working towards that. If we're not really all doing that, then we're just giving lip service to something and we're not really focusing on it.
Bingo, I would concur with that. I appreciate that actually, because sometimes we do come to meetings and it's like all this good stuff and then we go back and, well, we can't do that. We don't have that. And then there's no progress. I will say, just speaking from the locality that I'm at, this is something that is on our agenda a lot. Housing is on our agenda, just in general, people being unhoused and it's a huge thing. And I do think regionally we have to figure out what each locality can contribute to those solutions. Some of the issues that at least we face in Ashland is what the state government lets us do. You know, like there's some housing projects that we approved. I say I wasn't even on the board when it was, but I just remember that we approved and with the intent was, okay, you're gonna build 200 homes. We want 50 of them to be in this market range. And then when it came actually to them building it,
They couldn't do it.
everything was way out of
The
it.
cost went
Yeah,
out of
and-
sight.
You know, American like vouch for like, there's an actual project, a huge project, and we thought, oh, this is gonna be great, we're gonna have a mixed development of housing. And mixed becomes quote unquote, in someone else's opinion, what mixed looks like. So yes, so I agree with you, if we're gonna make this on agenda, any of these things on agenda, it's gonna have to be a regional collaboration. Whether it's, okay, Chesterfield's doing affordable housing, what is Ashland, what is Hanover contributing to?
And honestly,
what
right
they're
now,
doing.
probably Henrico has the most robust, and I think Richmond's
Yeah.
working pretty hard and
Yeah.
Chesterfield, to be honest with you, whether we're trying to or not, we're getting our share because we just have a
Yeah.
large share of the housing that's going in the region. So, but again, I could be totally wrong in my perception, but when I look around the region, I'm not seeing the units coming on in other places. I'm just not.
That's fair, that's a fair analysis. So we need to like at least share what we're doing.
Yeah.
Or progress we're making.
So sorry, I just.
No need to apologize. I think this is extremely valuable and kind of informs where we're at as a starting point to figure out where we can go with it. Because we have already determined it's a relevant point of conversation to even know what each other are doing, but to know what we can actually accomplish as a region has to start with what we're individually doing. So I think we have some more work to do to figure out what that would look like to be on the agenda. And that's something we can continue this conversation, also work with Martha and her team to see what they have, the ability to determine and help us with. But okay.
I'd like to add to that, because
Absolutely.
there was a presentation once, and I forget exactly who did the presentation, but it was about where people live, where people work, where people play, if you will. And we learned that in Chesterfield, people live, work, play in Chesterfield. And Richmond and Hanover, Henrico, we go all over the place, and the data was showing all kinds of things. I would love for, and I won't be part of this, but it would be interesting to see those type of things again on this. So when you talk about affordable housing or energy or healthcare, where do people live? Where do they get their healthcare? You know, where do people live? Where do they get their energy from? You know, like that would help move that conversation, I think, having that type of data source. And again, I forget who did the presentation. I'm sure you can go back and see it, but it was eye-opening to see where people lived, worked, and played and how they moved. And it would at least inform. And I'm also curious of what the out of school time means. Like, I don't really know what that.
Yeah, out of school time is literally the time that kids spend when they're not in school. So unsupervised time, where are they studying? Are they working? Are they pursuing, development opportunities? Are they playing sports? So it's literally kind of those when I was growing up, there was a lot of worry about latchkey kids. I don't think that's a term that's used anymore, but that's sort of the
Yeah.
current language around, you know, what are kids doing to stay out of trouble, advancing
Okay,
after the 8 to
literally
2:30
out of school times,
school
okay,
time.
that's curious.
It's
Summer
probably
breaks.
more like out of school and out of parent home time. It's,
I know
I mean, really
supervision
that,
time. Okay.
because a lot of the time, I think that's where you're really worried about it. If
Yeah,
at least one
supervised.
parent's at home, then it's probably a different environment at home than it is if no parents in the home.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
that old commercial, and they would play at night, you know, it's 11 p.m. You know where your children are. And so I think that's kind of a concept. It doesn't have to be like late at night. But the idea is, just like early childhood education, the whole focus is trying to do what's beneficial or support what's gonna have the best outcome for each individual child. And I think this is the same thing, it's a different age group. But with these hours that are available, if they're not being constructive, how do we provide options that make it constructive toward a child's best future or the youth's best future?
Yeah, and there's a coalition of about 150 community-based organizations that do just that. Next Up is a really incredible organization that focuses largely in the city of Richmond, but coordinates a lot of organizations that serve out beyond the city limits that really focuses on this. So there are school-based after-school programs, and there are not school-based after-school programs, you know, the Boys and Girls Club, the Y. I mean, there's 150 that are part of the network, so I can't name them all, but they actively work together and they track the progress of students in their educational and other attainments, to be able to ensure that the programming is enriching what's happening during the school day and not competing with, but is really enriching that so that kids are better prepared for whatever track they're pursuing post high school.
and we started asking the Y that does a lot of school programs to track that for us so that we had a better data point so that as we looked at opportunities to invest with groups like the Y, we'd actually have something to say, okay, well, it makes sense to invest in this because look at the results. When you just say, trust me, they're doing something good and you can't show the results, then it's a lot harder to say to the taxpayer that they should support it.
If you don't mind me talking too much, staying with the housing and that sort of thing. I'm the current president of the Virginia Municipal League. And I just want to say, as Mr. Spoonhour talked about, the state may do things. One of the things that we are not fond of with VML is one size fit all legislation that says you must do this. And you can look at it from a negative point of view and think, well, there's people out there that are being selfish, narrow-minded, and holding on to their own, and they won't open up their communities to others. Or you can look at it, I think, from a more, I would hope, a more realistic perspective, that there's some jurisdictions that I would use the term land rich but budget poor, and some that are budget rich but land poor. And so you can't really have a good one size fits all. And don't mind me trying to go over an analogy in the town, you know, for a long time, we've talked about and tried to get developers to go with more sustainable or economically friendly options such as permeable pavers. All right, and so you talk to them and they talk about, hey, that's extremely expensive. And so we're not going to do that. But the town has done that on probably a half dozen projects. And so, yeah, it's more expensive, but we're trying to lead in our search to do that economically. We try to find options that we can share with developers. You can do this too. I bring that up just to say, I think it's the same thing in housing, that at some point, if you're a leader, you do what you can to lead in these areas and you hope other people will follow. And so, you know, I salute Henrico, Richmond, and Chesterfield when it comes to affordable housing. But at the same time, every jurisdiction can't move forward with that. And it's a matter of, are you getting applications from developments for, say, multi multi-housing, multi-residential. And are you approving applications that you're getting? That's different than trying to seed or to make it happen as a jurisdiction. And so if we were to get those in Ashland, we would weigh those and decide how to do it. But we're not gonna fund it or build it right now. And so definitely Henrico with, I'll say, great budget help from data center income. And not that things weren't happening before that, but they're going forward with some great work right now. So to me, they're leading. And so the rest of us who maybe aren't participating as actively or obviously when it comes to affordable housing, we look at the leadership, we look at what's happening, and we want to go with the options that work. And so in Ashland, we're the most affordable area of Hanover County. And so when we look at our demographics, what the numbers say is we need more middle to high end housing to balance out what we have in the town. But when we say that in the town, then people get offended and say, what? You know, why are you building more expensive houses? People need homes, and we know that. But so our demographic in our budget says you may need to do this. And so when we're balancing with Hanover, though we're not Hanover. So I'm just saying there's a lot of factors, a lot of different dynamics involved. But I agree with you. If people say they're in favor of something, there ought to be something to show for it. But some of us are taking baby steps and others are taking good strides. I hope that didn't sound offensive.
No, well, you are right about one thing, because I have a section of my district on Route 1 that has a significant number of low income housing
Right.
areas. And that area absolutely can't tolerate anymore. It needs some full market rate to bring the services, because they don't have a grocery store and a
Yeah.
real pharmacy other than a hydrocodone clinic.
Yeah.
So, you know, they need that area lifted up, and then there's other areas that could absolutely take on some of the absorb it. And so it needs to be done strategically to lift everybody up, not to have pockets of wealth and pockets of poverty.
Right.
But everybody has to be working on it together if it's
Yeah.
gonna work.
Well, thank you. And it sounds like you just had our opening statement to our affordable housing topic when we get to it on the agenda. So remember, we'll have to play this back for you when we get there.
Just make sure you remember what you said.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. I think just by our short conversation here, we know part of the way forward. I just wanna close out this part of the discussion with, are there any topics that we don't wanna talk about over the next time?
Just want to recall education was on the list of it. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Speak to one thing, Dr. Newbill talked about homelessness. And then we're looking at homelessness in Ashland, but when you bring up homelessness, again, back, it becomes a great big topic that includes affordable housing. It's hard to work with the real estate market. But what I want to say is, when it comes to homelessness, you mentioned sheltering.
Well,
And-
that's the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah,
Getting
and that's-
people under roof.
Right,
Then it's the entirety of the services that are necessary to get them on a path to,
exactly,
you know, home
Right.
ownership, jobs, all sustainability,
Right.
but that's the first, yeah.
right. So
guess-
what my thought on homelessness is, as you say, that what we need to do is help people grab the low hanging fruit. So maybe in Ashland and Hanover, other jurisdictions, maybe you start with sheltering. And then you get your sheltering, hot weather, cold weather, get your sheltering nailed down. And then you've got that nailed down. And then you continue to look at how to reach out into the, as you say, the rest of the picture. But what I'm concerned about, or what I think might happen, is that sheltering won't take place because it's drowning in the middle of the hugeness of the issue of homelessness and affordable housing, real estate markets. So I just want to say I appreciate your point in bringing that up, but I'm thinking don't wait to get the whole thing.
Well, thank you, yeah. And Martha, do you want to go over in just a minute or two the new agenda format?
Sure, yeah, thank you. So as Chair Stewart said, I pitched this new format of the agenda, recognizing that today's commission meeting agenda is fairly heavy content-wise of staff presenting. Part of that's timing, but I think part of it's my hope that it can start to illustrate how we can move meetings from presentation and Q&A to actual conversation among board members. And so my goal is to structure an agenda that makes this place for you all. And this morning's conversation is indicating to me that you are ready for that. And so I'll be working with Chair Stewart to ensure that we're not putting too many staff presentations on the agenda that overtake the time that you have together. And at the same time, we're giving you substantive material that you feel like you can sink your teeth into and have conversation. So that balance is something we'll be working on. For this current meeting agenda, we've structured it in these sections. So of course, we'll have our opening section, that part A, that is the things that we have to do to call the meeting to order. Section B is really a time on the agenda that will be dedicated to what is the agency doing to advance that regional strategic vision. So this morning, you'll hear very brief, they have timed themselves and they are ready to stay on time. Updates to the board about our work to advance the economic development strategy and the air quality plan. Both of those are time sensitive. They're coming out for public comment. They are regional plans and are the core plan components of our regional strategic vision. We'll then have the regional pulse, which is intended to be kind of a standing item. Dr. McGraw, it may be an opportunity for us to just sort of do some things that you and I talked about last year. Dropping kind of, I'll say like a nugget of data out there that might be something that I want to give it a little bit more sort of credence and depth than like a fun fact, but kind of a fun fact that we've identified in the data research work that we're doing that might be a stimulus or you know, kind of a catalyst to conversation. So that's sort of the idea there. And then the fourth section on that part B is community voice, where we're just giving you again a little bit of a nugget briefing on what we're hearing and seeing in our community engagement work. So our engagement team will give an update about what we've been doing since the last meeting, where we've been, what we've heard. That may come in the form of me updating you. I spent time with the local government administrators and this is what came up in conversation, or our staff were at an event at the powwow in you know, in New Kent County, and we heard from citizens about this topic. And so it'll be those types of things, or staff member sits on a committee in Goochland County and this is what they're talking about. So it'll be that type of briefing on engagement. The next section, section C, is really where the business of the organization will happen. These are the chair and committee reports, any kind of decision items that need to be made by the board. And then finally, that section D is a roundtable opportunity. And I'm hopeful that this can become a larger time section of the agenda. Chair Stewart was gracious enough to sort of kick things off in this kind of local showcase. So this is an opportunity where I think I want to make sure that we don't revert back to 10 years ago on the agenda. There was a local spotlight, and actually the feedback I got was it created work for staff locally because they had to, September was their month and they had to come up with a presentation. It may or may not have been timely or relevant. So we don't want this to be a negative, but it would be the time on the agenda where a local government could say, we're facing this thing. Is anybody else having the same experience? Or we think we're leading on this thing. Does anybody else want to come along with us? I mean, I think it could be positioned in any way that felt appropriate, but it would be that time to really be able to highlight something that might be happening locally that would have regional significance or importance. It could be a celebration, it could be an issue or a problem. I think it could be kind of spun in a way that seemed right. And then we'll wrap with just our partners, you know, giving the updates about what's going on. But the intention again is really to be able to structure the agenda in more of a I hope, a way that supports what happened this morning in this meeting with more conversation among you as opposed to reacting to something that staff said. But it's gonna take me having discipline to structure the agenda that way, and then you all hopefully helping me model that conversation, dialogue, behavior among yourselves, not just before and the after, but in the meeting, if I can be so bold to say it that way.
You can be, so please. Well, thank you. Any questions on that? Any concerns, comments?
Look,
Any last remarks before we end this? I said we're getting 1 minute back and we're getting 1.5. So I always under promise and over deliver.
Great job.
Do I need to move to adjourn or can we just adjourn?
You can go either way.
See, I've been looking at you the whole time, but really I see Dr. McGraw